it's difficult from a coaching perspective to have, last year alone, I put out, I think 3 or 4 new reps, and to see what they walk into where you can survive in a full reaction mode, where the orders are coming across your desk. He who has the inventory wins, right? Price doesn't necessarily matter. Now shifting towards a proactive approach, going downstream, meeting with contractors, pulling that business through, talking to the key decision makers. It's just a change of philosophy.
Put that coffee down.
I'm not here to waste your time, okay? I certainly hope you're not here to waste mine. So I'm gonna keep this short.
Helen, we're both in sales. Let me tell you why I suck as a salesman.
The most valuable commodity I know of is information. Wouldn't you agree?
Coffee's for closers only.
So before we jump into the episode today, I wanted to give you a quick update on some changes that are coming, all for the better. Starting here with our new episode on September 6th, you are going to see some new branding for this episode. It is going to be called the Construction Leadership Podcast. That's right. Many listeners have pointed out the Behind Your Back podcast is kind of a dumb name for a podcast. It's hard to tell what we actually talk about. I totally get it. And you're right. Consider that proof we are listening. So beginning on September 6th, the new name of this show will be the Construction Leadership Podcast. And we're excited about it. You do not have to do anything. Next step, action step for you is nothing. Please continue listening. Don't be surprised. Now, for better or worse, you're going to see the new artwork still has my face on it. But instead of the Behind Your Back podcast, it will be called the Construction Leadership Podcast. And you're going to see new changes that we are rolling out. Also listening to our customers, our audience like you, that we really value your time and attention. We're going to be rolling out more episodes at different lengths. So we're going to have some episodes that go from about 5 to 10 minutes, some that go from about 12 to 19, and then we're going to have our standard longer interviews that we really enjoy, kind of peeling back the onion layers, if you will, with guests like we have here today, Calib Grothaus and Matt Kaufman of Palmer-Donavin. So these changes are coming down. And again, I want to thank you for your continued listenership and advocacy. And we really love doing this, and we really want to double down and do more of it and hopefully provide more value to you. Why are we doing this? Well, we've had 2 podcasts for a long time, and more listeners have said, it's kind of annoying. I have to listen to 2 when you're just one construction guy and you're talking to other construction people. Why? And yeah, we're going to stop trying to scale with complexity, something we're going to be talking about more later. So that's the quick rundown. Thanks for listening. Of course, starting September 6th, this will become the Construction Leadership Podcast, but we only want to make it better. So all the things, hopefully, that you've gotten value from so far, you're only going to get more of that. So with that, let's get back to the show. For now, this is the Behind Your Back podcast, and I am, and will continue to be, as far as you know, Bradley Hartman, your proud host here, where it's our goal to help you lead better, sell more faster at higher margins, and have more fun doing it. Capital One Trade Credit. Thanks to them, they are a presenting sponsor, and they will continue to be our sponsor. If you are interested in increasing revenue while increasing cash flow, while decreasing risk, and leveraging a state-of-the-art digital platform to make it easier for people to buy from you, my friend, may be interested in Capital One Trade Credit. So what should you do here? Is there a call to action here? Yeah, there is. Google Capital One Trade Credit and see if it's a fit for you. Now, I'm excited to bring to you today my conversation with a couple of sales leaders at Palmer-Donavin. Now, what do we know about Palmer-Donavin? Well, Palmer-Donavin began in the early 20th century when Fred Palmer was working for Carmen Manufacturing, which produced some things like macaroni noodles, tinware, and wash boilers. I think we all know what those are. Soon after, he offered his friend, that's right, John Donovan, a sales position at that company, and these 2 gentlemen would later acquire it and put it on its path for a legacy of over 110 years. Palmer-Donavin now has locations throughout the Midwest, and they offer their dealers access to an extensive inventory of building materials from exterior doors to decking and railing, among other things. So we've got Mr. Matt Kaufman, Vice President of Sales at Palmer-Donavin, and Mr. Calib Grothaus, the Sales Manager at Palmer-Donavin. Now, Matt has been in the industry for a long time and came up through the operations side before transitioning into sales. Meanwhile, Mr. Calib Grothaus, Sales Manager at Palmer-Donavin, has also been at the company for more than 10 years. However, he came directly out of college and has been at the employer ever since. He graduated from Bowling Green State University. Mascot? The Falcons. And as you'll hear, he's a really good 1-2 punch with Matt. So we've got Matt, who's been in the industry for a long time, came from the operations, and knows a ton about the industry, while Calib is a rising star, someone who's under 30, yet you talk to him and it sounds like he's been in this business for 20 plus years. So as you'll hear, not only are these guys smart, really thoughtful leaders, but they're a lot of fun to hang out with, and we met together outside of Columbus, Ohio, and really enjoyed this conversation. So without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Mr. Matt Kaufman and Calib Grothaus of Palmer-Donavin. As always, thank you for listening. Mr. Matt Kaufman, Calib Grothaus, almost rhymes with Roadhouse. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bradley.
I'm excited to be here with you guys, be here in Grove City at a fine restauranting establishment that will go unnamed because they're not yet a sponsor. But let's dive in here. I told you guys I've been absolutely fascinated with this Kyler Murray situation, quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals. It came out in his new contract, which was $230 million contract over 5 years, $160 million guaranteed. Buried deep in the contract was a default clause that said if he did not, on his own, outside of their training facility, study game film for 4 hours, no video games, no watching, scrolling through Google. If he did not do that, he could be in default. I thought it was fascinating for a couple of reasons. Number one, what are the expectations that our top performers have? To what degree do we have to put it in writing and hold them accountable? Yet for us, I think we're also faced with this situation. So Calib, you and I started talking about it right away. What are your thoughts there, and how does that relate to the expectations we have with our top salespeople and how much we want them to hopefully improve on their own?
Yeah, I think that you look at the top performers in that realm of outside sales, right? And you hope that they're doing those things outside of their everyday responsibilities, putting the time in, reading books, listening to podcasts. But the fact of the matter is there's people out there that aren't doing that, right? And so I look at these things and from a coaching standpoint, it's getting them to understand that, where you are today, you've earned every right to be a top performer. You've done the things necessary to get you to that level. But there are certain things that others would like to see from you as far as a coaching, a mentoring program with some of the younger employees or the younger reps, but also putting that time in to listen to podcasts. There's always something you can learn. You should always be learning, right? And so I look at those types of situations where, not to say who's in the wrong between Arizona, Kyler Murray, but it makes sense on both fronts that he says he's already doing this. Nobody works harder than me. We've heard that before. From their perspective, we want to see more from you. We want to see you put in that extra time because we realize what you could be. And there's always that additional potential aspect of things. Where could you be? Yes, you're a top performer today. Where can we get you? Should you put in that extra effort outside of your day-to-day responsibilities?
Yeah, Matt, before I kick it to you, I think that's really well said, Calib, because oftentimes I think the perception is from leadership, it's never enough. You're always wanting more. You always want to nitpick. And why don't you focus on the other guys who aren't top performers? And you're saying you worked really hard to get here, and we appreciate that, and you have done everything. And I think you're not even near your potential, too. I think that's really powerful, and sometimes that first part is missed, which I do think increases the animosity. Matt, you're kind of nodding your head. Share your thoughts.
I think it comes down to clear expectations, right? I mean, communication is key. I think we fall short at times in a society, whether it's business or just out in general. What are our expectations to get better, and understanding that there's no surprises. I mean, I think that the Kyler Murray situation where it's buried way in, it becomes a surprise. I don't like surprises. So,
yeah, when it comes to expectations there, I will often ask individual sales contributors, outside sales reps, contractor sales, whatever. I'll say, hey, what are the expectations for your job? from the perspective of your boss or manager. And I'll often hear something along the lines of, go out there every day, got to crush it, ABC, closing every day, landing millions, making dreams come true. And I'm like, all right, no, like literally what is expected of you? Matt, are there specific things you do? So you say, hey, can't guarantee you pick any one of my salespeople. Maybe that'll happen this week. And I'll say, hey, what are your expectations? But you guys are making concerted effort from a managerial standpoint to make sure it's reinforced and they know what is expected of them.
We are. I think that times have changed over the last, even the last couple of years, whether it's been because of, COVID and the way work changes have been between budgets and technology, the expectations have changed. And we've tried to communicate that. Now it comes down to an accountability piece to make sure that those are being adhered to. And it starts with us. At the end of the day, if we're not willing to do it, why should we expect somebody else to?
And I agree completely. And I look at, the expectations that we have for our folks across the board, whether it's Sales Hub activity, looking at lead measures, opportunities, the things that we don't ask a whole lot of our guys, but the things that we do ask, it starts, as Matt said, from us down to our top performers. And if some of my newer reps can see top performers spending the time each and every week to work with management to help grow their territory, it's a top-down approach where they understand the importance of that and they can move forward and they can do the things that are right. It's almost a replication piece of seeing what these top performers can do and then replicating that in the field, and in turn, it helps our talent develop.
Yeah, it's interesting. Just called to mind, I've asked folks, hey, walk me through over the last 2 years. How have you changed how you communicate what you expect? And you guys just described that a lot of things have changed. Why? Well, a lot of things about our business and our industry and our life, our world have changed. Therefore, we've changed. But a lot of folks haven't. They've just we kind of just muscled through COVID and we didn't really change a whole lot of things. And yeah, they were working from home, but we kind of grinded through it. As you guys think about all the steps that you've taken to improve, well, number one, survive, let alone, I think you guys can say, you're probably being modest, but in some cases you guys have really thrived throughout the last couple of years. What have you guys put in place to make sure we're not losing some of those advances that have come about because of COVID that we've had to do? Now that, we're getting back to some semblance of, whatever it was like before, March of 2020.
Full transparency, probably not enough.
Why?
I think that the demand has been so high. Products have been at times challenging to get, whether it's manufacturer on allocation or just extended lead times that I hate the term been too easy, but I think that there have been times where it's been too easy. And so now as the easy, I don't want to say goes away, but somewhat goes away, now you got to sell again, right? Mm-hmm. And otherwise you're going to get exposed. And I think that as a management team and trying to coach and better lead our folks, we've probably not drawn that line in the sand early enough to say, hey, this, and this needs to happen. Otherwise, you're going to get exposed, whether it's products, whether it's pricing, whether it's, hunting for a new customer, whether it's, prospecting, so on and so forth, pipelines and opportunities. And we probably have not done enough, but I think we've made some good strides in the last 60 to 90 days, but we've got to be better.
And we understand the importance of doing so, right? I mean, now more than ever, a recession's inevitable. We understand, we're hearing some softening in the market, and it's going to happen. And it's just instilling in our folks that, yes, things have been, to Matt's point, easy the past few years, right? Things are going to change, and there's going to be folks, unfortunately, that get exposed a little bit for lack of units sold, right? That you've been protected by this inflation we've seen over the past couple of years. And, I look at where this is going, and it is extremely important to prospect again. And that doesn't mean new customers, but maybe looking at new market penetration for our dealers, being consultant to our customers' business and helping them understand what's out there that they're not capturing. So, as Matt just mentioned, we are placing an emphasis on that moving forward, but we're probably a little too late.
Yeah, I think it's been a fascinating paradox that as you think about in our business, what has been easy and what has been hard. Historically, we've had enough material, we've had enough product. It's been hard to sell because selling is hard. And over the last 2 years, it's been totally flipped, which is, it's been really, really easy to sell. It's not even selling. It's just picking up the phone. Everything else has been so hard. And now I'm just questioning on how we as an industry, how individual companies and cultures and leaders like yourselves are going to handle when it flips back and demand softens, we have more supply, and it gets harder to prospect in those things. I think it's just going to be fascinating.
I think that you're right. I mean, we've gone from the need to be a consultative seller to an order taker to now a consultative seller again. It's our responsibility from a leadership stance to make sure that our folks, whether new or old, remember how to be a consultative seller. You know, how do you correctly prospect? What products are the right products to do that with? Which ones are not, still a problem from a supply chain standpoint? And that to me is probably the biggest piece, especially for the younger folks that, either came in during the pandemic or after, the pandemic was already in motion. They've never seen it, right? They look at it and go, holy cow, this is awesome. Well, maybe not so awesome when the demand's not the same. So
it's difficult from a coaching perspective to have, last year alone, I put out, I think 3 or 4 new reps, and to see what they walk into where you can survive in a full reaction mode, where the orders are coming across your desk. He who has the inventory wins, right? Price doesn't necessarily matter. Now shifting towards a proactive approach, going downstream, meeting with contractors, pulling that business through, talking to the key decision makers. It's just a change of philosophy. And so to your point, where do we go from here? It's more or less, we're spending more time in the field each and every week. We're spending more time on one-on-one coaching calls. We're more proactive. We are placing a huge emphasis on lead measures and seeing what they're doing, the little things right every single day, instead of just looking at that baseline number at the end of the year.
Yeah. Maybe go into that just a little bit more, to the degree that you can or are willing to. What are a couple of the key measures? Because I think what you're talking about from a leadership or management standpoint is where most of my attention and effort has gone with our clients, which is, as managers and leaders, get out from behind your desk, get in the field, more face-to-face time. It's more observations. It's an observation game. It's not quality. It's sheer quantity. See what these people are doing, because a lot of people don't. So anyway, I think from a management standpoint, Calib, you said it so well. What are the lead measures, to the degree that you're willing to share, that you guys are focused on?
We have about 6 or 7 lead measures that we actively track our guys on. And it's things that you should be doing at every stop that you're at, right? Whether that's one of them's a new product introduction, lunch and learn session with, the lumberyard of the contractors, field visit or a job site visit. There's a handful of them out there that we track religiously to make sure that we're doing the right things at every single stop. That it's not just a milk run. We're not just stopping by, dropping off donuts, being a donut dropper. That's not our philosophy. And we want to create value for our dealers at every single stop. And so those are some of the ones that we track the most: product placements, display placements, things like that. And then what makes it easier for us, Bradley, is at the end of the year when we sit down with our vendors, and whether we have great success with that we've placed X amount of displays, done the ride-alongs with vendors, and done these things, and we've had success, or we failed, yet we still had these amount of displays out in the field, and we still had these travel days scheduled, that it makes those conversations for us much easier to decipher what's working and what's not.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I mean, whose fault is it, right? And I'm going to say fault's not fair, but why do we fail at something, whether it's on us, on the vendor, combination of both, and how do we get better?
Let me ask you this. So surely you have, by the way, you guys have done an unbelievable job of getting young talent. When we're together and I see your sales team, it stands out. So I'll start with that. How are you thinking about, say, the sales rep that started in 2014, 2015, 2016, came on, all they know was every year was pretty much better than the one that came after it. And then this pandemic freaked everybody out. And then it became fish in a barrel mode and everything else got harder, right? And it leads us back to the conversation we just finished. My concern is, what is going to happen to cultures, to rep to manager, to teams when someone says, I've been here for 7 years and I've been really successful. I've never had to prospect. Maybe we talked about it, but you've never really had to, right? Or at least not to the degree that we're anticipating will in the future. Any thoughts on how you get these folks prepared for what will probably be a reality sooner or later that they've never been exposed to?
So I think that the 7 to 10 year folks that have had it to where 1 year after the next has been good, then the pandemic hit and it was, what's going to happen? And then 60 days later, it was like, holy cow, this is awesome. Right. I mean, which is really what happened. And we're still in the middle of that. I think that it really comes down to, our management team to make sure that, to Caleb's point, following those lead measures and doing the right things in the field that maybe that they've never had to. And it's going to be hard for some of them. Some of it's going to be pretty easy, right? They're going to look at it and go, oh, yeah, I got that. I already do it. But then you're going to have others that go, oh, I don't really care for that because, you look back and go, man, I've been making 8 calls a day for 5 days a week, and it's the same guys, and I don't really know that I'm taking or seeing the right people, but I'm busy, so I'm doing the right things.
Right. And I think through, our one-to-one meetings, having those conversations, to Matt's point, it comes down to the way that we describe what we've seen, right? We spend a lot of time in this industry, and I try to every day explain to my guys, this is not normal, and whether personally or professionally, have a conversation related to, how are you today? How are things going? How's the home life? But to make sure that they're smart about their finances, they're smart about the way they approach the business on a day-to-day basis, because to Matt's point, these past 7 years or so, we've had folks make a lot of money, and we've had folks that you worry about when things do turn, what kind of lifestyle they're living today. And so it's caring for those individuals on a personal level and professional level, but getting to that point where they understand that this is not normal. We will never see something like this. At least I hope not.
Yeah, that's another aspect of it that probably is an entirely different podcast, but this is the largest experiment that we've been running in our industry, and what happens when compensation and profitability both go through the roof and then come back. But I'm going to set that aside for the minute. I want to ask you guys, because I've been really impressed with how you guys continue to engage your folks, have a fun atmosphere. I see people laughing and enjoying work, which I do not see everywhere. And I've had several people call me out in person and then over the phone, where our tagline is, we help you sell more, faster, at higher margins, and have more fun doing it. And I've had a lot of people say, guess what, man? I haven't had fun at this job in 2 years. So your tagline, shove it. And I'm like, all right, it seems like more of a personal issue. I'm not sure I can help you there, but that's what we're striving for. What are you guys doing to, and I'm sure, it's not going to be the same for everyone, but just in general, and I've seen a lot of folks together, I think I have a large enough sample size with you guys. You guys are doing stuff differently. What are you doing?
I think there's a couple things that come to mind on that one. And the first one is the fact that we are an ESOP. And I think that does change the perspective of a lot of folks at this company. We've had some great years of profitability. Even though it's very stressful, even though it's all hands on deck right now, folks take a lot of pride in what they do on a day-to-day basis across the board. But to our culture piece, that starts top down. It starts with Robin, through Matt Kaufman, all the way down to our sales folks, all the way down to the guys in the warehouse that are cleaning the floors, right? And we really take a lot of pride in what we do. We want to help our dealers. We're not out there just to take the orders. We want to see your business succeed. And so I think that's where it starts from a culture standpoint. Personally, I try to spend as much time with my folks learning about them, personally and professionally, right? What makes them tick? What motivates them? Your family members at home, who do you care about? What is it that drives you every single day, so that when you wake up, if you're having an off day, I can motivate you by maybe bringing some of those things up, and we try to stay as engaged as possible. Obviously, we do a lot of trash talking to each other. We have team chats, and Kaufman and I sitting here making fun of each other before we started, obviously. But I do think there's a lot to be said. We have a family-like culture, and that goes a long way for us.
I think you nail it, right? The family-like culture, the ESOP, that's what brought me to Palmer-Donavin 12 years ago. And, the ability to, this will sound corny, but work hard, play hard, right? The ability to be able to do that, to have relationships, whether peer-to-peer, supervisor to subordinate, it doesn't matter. Again, Caleb and I can have a one-off conversation that is hard, personal, doesn't matter, and then turn around and go back at it, right? And I think that that's important. Do we have folks that are tired from the last couple of years? Absolutely. I mean, I think you have some folks that, their income's been pretty solid, but they've been run ragged and they're starting to get burnt out, because vendor allocation or demand is so high. But as a whole, I think that we are, as a business, pretty special when it comes to how we function as an organization, and how we function whether in a group or one-on-one. And you've seen it a couple times now, and it's pretty special.
So tell me, I mentioned earlier, and I said we're going to come back to it. I think the ESOP might play a part of it, but also we have other clients, we're around other ESOPs, and it's different. I do think it gives you an added benefit to tell a different story than just, say, a publicly traded company. But what are you guys doing to effectively attract young talent? Because it has to be something you're doing differently with this quantity of individuals that are under the age of, 30.
Sure. I mean, we do a couple of different things as it relates to attracting new talent, but then it's retaining them, right? We've got a lot of different programs with where we're involved with Ohio University, Ohio State University, Toledo, Bowling Green, where they've got different sales-driven programs that we'll go up and speak to, or we'll go to a job fair and recruit at. Our HR department and our recruiters do a very nice job of trying to network. And to be perfectly honest with you, as we've gotten that rolling, some of our 1 and 2 year in folks are referring friends, referring people from that program that said, hey, this is an awesome place to work. You should come interview, or you should come talk to us. And, our goal is to have 3 to 5 apprentices all the time. The last couple of years have been a little funky to do that, but as of last week, we're pretty close to that, and it's pretty awesome. So, from a retention standpoint, though, it's one thing to get them; it's another thing to retain them, right? Absolutely. And especially, the younger generation, where things. I've got a 21-year-old son, so things that are bright and shiny typically grab his eyes, and so you don't want to lose sight of that, but. We do a lot of things family-like. We just, we do a summer fun weekend where it's, employees and families and, our customers and their families. And it's more, together, so to speak. So it's pretty cool.
And I think, to tackle into Matt's comments, I agree completely. There's a sense of, speaking as a millennial, starting here 10 years ago, knowing what's expected of you and knowing what career path you can take and how quickly you can add the most value to the company. And our program, with the help of Corey Hegel and Jim Miller, they have taken this program to the next level by detailing every step of the way, your training process, what you're going to do week 1 all the way through week 52, to get you to that point. And sometimes they make it the whole 52 weeks. Other times we have to pull them out of there, right? But when they go out, they're ready. And that's a true testament to the program that they put in place. They get to see every facet of the business. They get to spend time with Matt and I and the other sales managers. And, from everything from sitting on a CEO meeting to board meetings to our management meetings, they see every aspect of the business, spend time with truck drivers, go out in the warehouse. And I think that speaks to the culture that we have. We're very transparent. And I think that's something they appreciate.
I agree.
So I think you referenced maybe part of that. But my question was, when you say, Matt, we want to have 3 to 5 apprentices all the time, maybe give an overview. And it sounds like, Calib, maybe you just referred to part of that, which is they're getting to see different aspects of the business. But I would say even the board meetings and things like that. What else goes into that you say, we've always got 3 to 5 of these folks that are somewhere in this process?
So originally, when I say originally, let's say 2 to 4 years ago, the apprentice program was really a cohort that said, okay, we're going to put recent college graduates together, whether it's 2, 3, 4, 5 folks, all the time moving forward. Well, 1, it's hard to manage all of them at the same time. 2, you don't always need 1 all at the same time. So for the first time this year, we've made the decision to, hey, we're going to get them. And when we get them, if we get all 5 of them at the same time, so be it, right? But if we get them 5 months apart, they finish the program 5 months apart. So as we have attrition, whether it's retirement or performance or, hey, we need folks because we're greenfielding a new territory or whatever that might be, we have people in the pipeline ready, and then our program will replenish itself. I don't know if that's what you're asking.
It is, and I'm having flashbacks too, is it has been a while, but towards the end of last year, we were talking about the OSR Academy. Matt, if you remember, you were very generous in talking about what you're describing, a 12-month, 15-month, small cohort, online, offline. You guys were really candid on, hey, here's what did work, here's what didn't. And I just remember taking a bunch of notes and going back to our board of advisors and saying, all right, we've learned from someone who's tried to do something really similar in a different way in-house. So that's been really helpful. Caleb, what else do you have to add what Matt said?
No, I agree completely with what Matt said. It's one of those situations where, it's not always easy. Folks starting at different times, ending at different times, seeing different parts of the business at different points. And then when you get to the hiring process, for years we operated as whoever was ready or whoever's tenure was the longest, we were just going to put you in that field. And we've learned from that. We've made mistakes, and we've realized that sometimes it's not always about who was there the longest or who got through the cohort the fastest, that maybe it makes sense from a fit perspective. Who do we see there long term? Who's going to be happy, right? And want to raise a family in that market. And I think that's where we have success, is we look for 3 to 5 individuals and we try our best to funnel. There's unexpected things that come up, right? But we try our best to funnel in those directions and say, where do you want to live that's going to make you happy long term?
Doesn't always work, right? I mean, and last year was an interesting, time for us with an apprentice program. We had 3 folks that all came in at the same time, and all of a sudden we had 3 needs halfway through the program. So, it's a sink or swim scenario. Which is more important? Do you have people in the field that are not quite ready, or do you have field empty? We chose to put people in the field, and, then it's on the managers to step up, teach them travel, and it's been interesting, been fun.
Well, I can imagine too, maybe at a different time in Palmer-Donavin's history, surely people that are listening will say, yeah, sounds like a little bit of a risk, Matt, but you know what we're doing today? None of this. We're hiring them, just throwing them out there. So the fact that, we pulled them out earlier than we would have liked, they also have 6 more months of training than they would have had in the history of Palmer-Donavan or at other companies. So it's all relative.
You're exactly right. And I mean, I got to throw my buddy Vic Ennis, our sales manager down in Cincinnati. I got to throw him under the bus here for a second. My training before the apprentice program was, we went and saw like 4 lumber yards, dropped me off in the parking lot and said, well, it's all yours, bud. Good luck. Call me if you need me. And that's all we knew at that point. It's not a knock on Vic, right? But that's all we knew. That was normalcy for us. And now we get to a point where we have a detailed program every step of the way. And as I mentioned earlier, sometimes we don't get there, right? But if you can get 3 to 6 months worth of quality training during that time, they're much more ready than I was as a 19-year-old kid going on the road.
I think Vic would say, because I've spent so much time with Vic, Vic knew a superstar Caleb when he saw him. And he said, you know what? We're not going to waste the company's time or money. This guy, we're going right to the parking lot scenario.
I appreciate that. I don't know if that's the case, but I think he was desperate.
He was just tired of traveling with you.
I think so too. Like, just get out. Where,
Get
here?
out.
Yeah, just get out here. You'll handle it. Good segue here. Caleb, what leadership advice would Caleb give to his former self? Wait, you started Palmer-Donavan at 19?
18, started in the warehouse.
You did. All right. I got to get you out of the warehouse. Tell me, what were you doing at age 23?
At 23, I was just announced as the Delphus manager.
Oh, all right. Perfect. All right. What would you give? You had to give it. Because sometimes people get clever when they get this question. I would tell him nothing because he was young. He wouldn't listen. I wouldn't tell him anything. I'm glad the way life turned out. Yeah, I know all that. You're amazing. Here's what I would tell you. What would you have to tell yourself, the 23-year-old Calib Grothaus?
I would, one of the biggest things that I've learned so far is it's not, the business is valued on numbers, right? And numbers are extremely important. But looking back, you reach those numbers by treating people with respect, knowing them on a personal level, helping them achieve their individual goals versus only focusing on the numbers. And it goes back to talking about lead measures. It goes back to learning about your individuals on a personal level. I think coming in as a 23-year-old manager, I just had something to prove, right? I told Matt that all I wanted to do was just post numbers that were, so big that they didn't know what to do, right? And looking back, I think I neglected some of my sales guys at the time, only looking at the numbers, but not knowing them on a personal level, what makes them tick and what motivates them on a daily basis, that I lost sight of what really makes them go. And if you can figure those things out, you're going to get the numbers and you're going to gain a lot of respect and appreciation from those individuals during the process.
Realize that's the easy button. Figure out why they're doing it for their reasons. Your advice to yourself would be very similar to mine. But Matt, what about you? You were going to talk to your 30-year-old Matt Kaufman self. Place me at 30 years old. Where were you?
30 years old.
Wasn't that long ago.
It was a long time ago. Yeah, I was going to say, so you're telling me Caleb was 23 and I'm 30. So, gosh, that's real nice. But no, I'm kidding. Previous life, right? But when I think back to 30, I was an operations manager running a wholesale household goods distribution company. So, I think back to that age. If you were asking me that question as a salesman, I think understand the psychology of people, because I think it's crazy important. And one of the things that gets missed, I talk to a lot of our younger folks about that, about being able to be versatile or a chameleon or whatever you want to call them. As a manager, think big. Don't get caught in the day-to-day. And, I often and I still do, right? I often get caught in the trap that says, oh, I got to work on today because it's so important, and you forget about tomorrow. And so that's probably, and I didn't know that then. That's probably what I'd tell myself.
Yeah, a friend of mine recently convinced me that, I'm not sure if you listened to any of the podcast episodes where we broke down a sales movie and we kind of pulled out some key clips. Somebody had been working on me for many, many months that we should do one on Fletch, the original, not Fletch Lives, because while obviously he's blowing it way out of proportion, the idea of being a chameleon and understanding people and trying to figure out what you want to investigate, I finally came around and said, okay, I'm not sure, we probably won't do it till 2025, but we're going to add it to the list.
So sadly, Fletch is probably 20 years before Caleb was born.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
That's horrifying. We're going to go over some of the key films. Maybe I'll, final question there. Matt, Caleb, any movies that you would recommend? By the way, I gave you zero prep on this. If you got nothing, we're just going to edit this whole thing out. Any movie recommendations where you would say, whether it's psychology, whether it's leadership, whether it's sales, this is a movie that you could watch thinking of your role here at Palmer-Donavin that can help you?
The first one that comes to mind is Wolf of Wall Street from a selling point, but
Okay.
obviously there's some parts of that movie you don't want to
Not all the
replicate and
lessons,
translate up.
just some of the lessons. Yeah.
But I think from a sales perspective, I think what he does best is he persuades people to believe in him, and that's one of the biggest things, right? That he grew a team from himself to 500 people plus in an office on Wall Street. And grew this company from nothing to something in a span, in a short period of time. And I think that speaks to the level of persuasion, understanding people, the psychology of people, as Matt was just talking about. I would say Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, there's also, I believe her name is Kimmy, right before he goes on a tear, where Kimmy gives that first-person story about single mother having no money.
Yes.
And he believed in her, gave her, I think, a $35,000 check. And she will lie down in the middle of railroad tracks for Jordan Belfort because of that. And again, there are obviously lots of details in that movie and scenes that we would not encourage anyone. And if you haven't seen Wolf of Wall Street, go in eyes wide open. That's not purely Caleb's, only recommendation. But it's like that, which is he found people that, you're right, not only believed in him, but he believed in them first, right? And they believed each other, and that made aspects of the story great. Matt, what came to mind?
So, since Caleb used Wolf of Wall Street from a sales pitch, I'd use Braveheart from a leadership standpoint. Driven to be followed, right? To push people in the right direction, to be able to pull people when needed. I mean, to me, that's a movie that's long and gory and probably also older than Caleb, but it's maybe not.
You
quite.
have seen Braveheart, correct?
I can't confirm or deny.
Oh my gosh!
But to me, that's one that always sticks out as how do you go and lead an army that is pretty special.
Yeah,
So,
Braveheart, gentlemen. Thank you. I enjoyed talking to you guys and really looking forward to this. And you guys obviously not failed to deliver. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
thanks,
Thank
Bradley.
you.
Appreciate it.
All right, then, friend, how did that go? Hopefully you enjoyed my conversation with Matt Kaufman and Calib Grothaus of Palmer-Donavin. And a quick reminder here, as I was rambling when this podcast began, starting on September 6th, the name of this podcast will become the Construction Leadership Podcast. What do you need to do? Nothing. Don't do anything. Just continue to listen. Let us know how it's going. But you're going to see in the months ahead as we change up and offer more episodes of varying lengths with more industry leaders, more ideas to hopefully deliver more unique value to you. We try to practice what we preach. I want to thank our sponsor, Capital One Trade Credit. If you're interested in leveraging a state-of-the-art digital platform that makes it so easy for your customers to buy from you and do that with less risk, check out Capital One Trade Credit. As always, my friends, thank you for your time and attention. We're going to close out like we always do with our leadership mantra. You, my friend, are owed nothing. Deliver value first.